Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Mariancho. It's Monday, May 19th at 4:20 p.m. You know what we're doing. It's time for another draft. Let's go. All right, I mentioned last week we're going to do the first Best Ball Mania entry of the off season. I haven't done one of these off stream and wanted to make it official. Let's hop in. We're entering a massive tournament here with over 672,000 entries. There is 15 million up for grabs. So if somehow we can win, top prize gets 2 mil, and if we can finish top 15, we get 100K. The prizes are not too bad if you make the final. The final, I believe, is 539 seats. In order to get there, we need to finish top 2 in this 12-team pod. Then we need to finish first in a 13-team group, and then first in a 16-team group. So the odds of advancing are actually very, very slim, less than other tournaments. That's why I don't really do too many of these. I like more volume, and in all honesty, 25 a pop. I don't have $3,000 to burn by maxing out this tournament. So I try to pick and choose the spots. We're doing one today, and I think we've had enough practice where we know what we're doing. Let's just jump in. Let's not waste any time. Let's enter, and if you want to join, you can. There are 10 spots remaining. Hopefully, we don't have to wait too long, but if you want to join, 10 spots remain in Best Ball Mania 6. We're doing a 20-second pick clock, and there are still 10 spots open. So in the meantime, maybe we play an immaculate grid, perhaps. Let's try it. Chargers 3,000-yard passing season. Let's just go with Herbert. We're trying to get unique answers on this thing, but I feel like most people are going to go Rivers. So we go with Herbert, 3,000-yard passing season for the Bears. I feel like there aren't going to be that many Trubisky answers. Let's go with Trubisky. 11%, not bad. And then 3,000 plus for the Commanders. I would like to go Alex Smith, but I don't think he played a full season there with them. Let's go Robert Griffin the third. 10%, not too bad. We are still waiting for 7 spots in the Best Ball Mania entry, so now it's down to 6. We should be off to a start pretty soon, but now we need a Raider and Bear. We'll go with Khalil Mack. That's probably a common answer, but we'll go with Khalil Mack. Saint and Commander, we'll go with someone who just got traded there last season. We'll go with Lattimore. Raider and Commander. That one I'm not so sure. These Saints players are messing with me, but I mean, we'll just go with Drew Brees, all-timer. Actually, we need a less common answer. Let's try Darren Sproles. Nah, Sproles is still there. Tried to mix it up. Did Cordero Patterson ever play for the Saints? I don't think so. I feel like Brandon Cooks is an interesting option here, but no, I don't think he played in Chicago. We need a Raider / Charger. Saint / Bear. And a Raider / Commander. But this is starting. The lobby is full. And what pick do I get? I get pick 11. Oh, that's kind of gross. I was hoping for a better pick, but we can make that work. I have made some Team 11s work. We're probably going to get a elite quarterback on this team. But Jonathan, good to see you. Thank you for the good luck, the presence here in the chat. And high stakes today. at least higher stakes than before on these live streams. We're in BBM6, $25 for this entry. We're trying to chase that $2 million first prize. Only question is, do we mix it up with a running back and a wide receiver? Do we stay balanced, or do we double up on receiver at this turn? I don't think I like this spot in the draft where running back is the way to go. I think if we can get Christian McCaffrey, we'll take a shot on it. But if not, I'm probably trending towards wide receiver. We'll see what happens with Team 12. Team 12 is going to decide a lot of what we're doing. But here we go. It has begun. We can see Jamar Chase, Bijan over Saquon. Yo, over the weekend, I was in a puppy draft at pick 5, and Saquon fell to me at pick 5, who normally goes pick 2. And then in round 2 at pick 20, I got Brock Bowers to fall to me. Bowers usually goes like pick 15. So Bowers fell considerably, and I was able to pair him up with Saquon in the 5 slot because both of them fell. That was a really nice start to that team. Maybe we'll take a look at it after this is over. After I make my picks here, maybe I'll pull it up, because I thought that team actually turned out pretty nicely. But I did get stuck with Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 29. Didn't like that. Regretted drafting Harrison. Harrison, not a player I'm really excited to bet on this season. But Jonathan rewatched the Subscriber League auction draft from last year. You want that title, you're going to have to come and get it, man. You're going to have to pry it from my hands. I am not letting that go easily. Finally got the championship in the Subscriber League last season. I am not giving it up. We're going back to back, baby. So Genty goes. If we pass on a receiver, I see a kind of a sizable gap between these top 2 receivers and then London and A.J. Brown. So I'm just going to go with Nico Collins. We will take Nico. We will just take Nico. But CMC goes. That's probably the only receiver I would have taken. And honestly, I kind of wanted Brian Thomas just as much. So we're going to go double receiver. Team 12 was kind to us. Let Brian Thomas fall, and I will happily take Brian Thomas. I'm starting to be less of a believer in Travis Hunter by the day, at least in terms of a threat to Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas was just so insanely good last season, and yeah, next time you should not ignore my Brian Thomas hype. I was so on board with Brian Thomas all off season, and you guys let me draft him for $4. That was one of the steals of the draft. Granted, I did trade away Brian Thomas. He was not on my roster in the playoffs. I rolled with Jamison Williams, and thankfully I was able to get it done without Brian Thomas, but still, that was one of the best draft day decisions. Brian Thomas for $4. What a steal. What a league winner. I also got T. Higgins for 15. Nico Collins for 33. Jamison Williams I got for $1. You guys let me crush at receiver. Yeah, never want to end the draft with money. Can't be generous in an auction draft. Got to be cutthroat, man. Don't sleep on Brian Thomas this year. But Brian Thomas definitely not going to go for $4. We get him here at the top of round 2. And I almost took him at pick 11. Enjoy your day, man. Enjoy your Monday. Peace out. But while we wait, let's take a little smoke break. I'm not sure what's going on with OBS. It's been pausing that intro a couple times. I've been needed to mess with it just to make sure it starts on demand, but it's working. Anyways, after we go Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, We see Derrick Henry paired with Ashton Genty. We see A.J. Brown, Lad McConkey. I'm starting to get fully on board with this price on Lad McConkey. The more you do some digging, the more you look into last season for the Chargers, you can throw out the first 7 weeks of the season. In all honesty, the first 4 games before the bye, Justin Herbert was coming back from a plantar fascia injury in his foot. Then they took him out early in week 4 against the Steelers because he got rolled up on his ankle. We're being very cautious with him. Then after the bye, you can kind of throw out 2 games as well as he's trying to recover. And then once we pass week 7, as they played 6 games, if you look at all of the Lad McConkey stats past that point, Lad does slot in as a top 12 receiver. And because some of the players after him are in more, not necessarily committees, but like they're the number 2 receiver on their team, like T. Higgins, for instance. At the moment, you can't definitively say if Rashee Rice is the number 1 on his team. Same with like Devontae Adams and some upside like that. It makes Lad McConkey actually justifiably worth this price. I've been hesitant to endorse Lad as like, I wish I could get him in the 3rd, but definitively, I do think he is better than any other receiver going after him in the ADP. I don't think I'd take him over A.J. Brown, but you can make the case for it. You can also make the case for him even over Drake London. However, with Trey Harris coming in, slightly more target competition, I would put him behind those guys. So Lad McConkey in round 2, I think is fair. But we have Nico Collins, Brian Thomas. I don't think we have to grab a receiver here. However, the team after us probably doubles up. So my rankings say Mike Evans, but for the sake of being different with a very high ceiling on this team, let's grab Lamar Jackson. I think having the elite quarterback of preference is more valuable here, and that's what we're going to do. Kind of wish I got Josh Allen so I could pair him up with James Cook, but I have passed on running back in the past here and regretted it. So I will trust my rankings even though we don't get the Bills correlation. We're going to stick with James Cook here. 18 touchdowns last year in only 6 games. We need at least a competitive RB1, especially with this team at 10 drafting 3. Kind of maybe forces up some other spots. I would rather have James Cook than Breece Hall, and so I will take James Cook above Breece Hall. But Dev saying Lad's a baller. Truly is. And that Texans game where he just blew up for like 180 yards in the playoffs, I feel like that is why I was like reluctant to fully buy in. It's like one game that is sitting in your mind, kind of clouding some of the judgment, makes it feel like you should take him super high, but he had a big enough sample size where this is an accurate ranking. Not gonna hesitate to draft Lad anymore, especially if I'm deciding between Lad and Brock Bowers, Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor. I think I'll just take Lad. At least on Underdog here. On Underdog, it's more important to care about the positional rankings and like the difference between wide receiver 11 and wide receiver 15 rather than the straight up rankings, because everything gets skewed by having to start 3 receivers on this roster. If you're trying to look at these rankings and apply them to your redraft league, if you're in a start 2 wide receiver type of format, you can only look at it straight up, like positionally, who's the wide receiver ranked above the next guy. But you can't exactly care too much about, oh, I'm taking this wide receiver above this running back. No, in general, it's the other way around because wide receiver is not as valuable. But that's more for strategy. We're just sticking with the game we're playing. And today, that is best ball. And Best Ball on Call is here. Haven't been able to draft with you in a minute, but I stopped by to hit the like. Thank you very much, man. Dev says, I could not take Lad over AJ either. Yeah, a little too much upside with AJ Brown. But what was interesting is AJ Brown actually had some of his best stats of the season with Kenny Pickett. And obviously it was like a super small sample size, only 2 games. But their offense did throw the ball a lot more. with the backup quarterback in, as opposed to without him. So those rush attempts from Jalen Hurts paired with Saquon. Sometimes A.J. Brown is a little disappointing, but he also has like 6-game stretches where he puts up like 130 yards per game and scores like 8 touchdowns in that sample size. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to pass on this. It unfortunately comes in like October a little bit more often than December, but he's still very capable of leading you to a top 5 finish at the position. Like if A.J. Brown put up 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns next year, no one would be surprised. If Ladd did that, that would be a bit shocking. Ladd is more poised for like 1,250 and 10, not like 14 and 15. But as the receivers fall off the board in this stretch, you can kind of regret drafting running back there, but at least we grabbed Nico and Brian Thomas to start off this draft, so we are in good shape. But I'm comfortable with any of these 3 running backs, so I'm not going to take running back here. Definitely not. I believe Chris Godwin is the most valuable of these players, so I will just take Chris Godwin. It does hinge on his health, but if the health is there, no one is more valuable than Godwin at this stage. So no risk it, no biscuit. Gonna stay true to my rankings. And as long as Godwin can be healthy enough to contribute, I do trust him to at worst outperform his ADP. He was going in the same range last year and he crushed his ADP until he got hurt. But we have James Cook. I'm very tempted to take TreVeyon Henderson. I actually really like TreVeyon Henderson at this point. But we grabbed a quarterback already, so I'm not going to let receiver escape us. We're going to go Rome Odunze. And just taking a piece of that Bears offense is never something I regret. I also really like DeAndre Swift at the next turn. And if we go with DeAndre Swift here, we do have to worry about the DJ Moore team sniping us later, but we can at least set us up for a Caleb Williams stack if it comes along later. And even if we don't get the Caleb stack, I think investing in Chicago is wise. Ben Johnson's going to get that offense right, and there will be a lot of points to be had. They're clearly going to throw the ball a ton. So coming out of the draft, I was a bit up in the air on what their draft day decisions meant for the rotation and target share in Chicago. I couldn't quite decide if they have no faith in Rome after his rookie season was a pretty lackluster affair. He really failed to elevate and separate himself on the field with Keenan Allen there. However, as more time has gone by, I'm more in the camp that they don't trust DJ Moore as much as the previous administration did. I think the previous coaching staff had a lot more faith in DJ Moore. And the new organization maybe still doesn't trust Rome, but I don't think they are giving the keys to the castle, so to speak, to DJ Moore anymore. So that's why I'm not like dying to draft DJ Moore at his price, but because Rome is 2 rounds cheaper, even though I can see a world where I do get burned with Rome, I'm willing to take that chance. Just taking a stab at Chicago and trusting that Ben Johnson will make it work. And again, it's best ball. We never have to decide when this player is actually in the lineup. It's just automatically inserted for us when he goes off. And Rome did have some big spike weeks last season. So I do think he's above Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland plays a different role. I expect Rome to be more of a deep threat. DJ Moore was targeted almost like strictly around the line of scrimmage, if not behind the line of scrimmage. DJ Moore was not the deep shot player. He was the yak contributor and possession guy. So I think those possessions will start to diminish, and Rome, hopefully the player I believed in last season, does show up for me. We will take Rome in round 6. And after Rome, we say Jordan Addison, Alvin Kamara, Sam Laporta, Deebo Samuel, TreVeyon Henderson. I like the price on Henderson. I don't really understand why Henderson has been falling. But as he does, I've actually been scooping him up like crazy. As an RB2, I think he's a really good option. And even if you punt the position where he's your RB1, I think you can get away with it if you get enough depth later on. But Henderson, I really like. I think is just as valuable as Chuba and RJ Harvey. Arguably more valuable than Joe Mixon. But after Henderson at 67, we see Judkins, Jacoby Myers, Jerry Jeudy, James Conner, Juwan Jennings, Aaron Jones, pretty high on Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Diggs, Ayuk, Matthew Golden, and Caleb Johnson. So looking at the players available, we are probably still targeting DeAndre Swift, and it makes me... We get sniped on DeAndre Swift. I would prefer Jaden Reed here. We do not get him. Not that excited with Khalil Shakir. Really wish I had a different quarterback, but I will take TJ Hawkinson. Not in love with it. But having a tight end here, I think, is useful. And now we'll go Pacheco. We need a running back too. I'd much rather have Pacheco than Brian Robinson. So maybe drafting a running back earlier was a wiser decision, but I still think I can compete. It's just a question of, will Pacheco be healthy? And because we don't feel too confident in that proposition, we will probably be drafting 6 running backs, not 5 on this team. But if Pacheco is healthy, he is a smash pick. The RB1 in Andy Reid's system will outperform this ADP. I kind of want to rank Pacheco straight up as like running back 15. I don't think there's that many reasons to worry about Pacheco's ceiling. He just doesn't have anywhere near as high of a floor as last year. So Pacheco was going in round 4, 5 last year. I love that price on Pacheco. I will endorse round 8 Pacheco. And if he doesn't win the job, then my bet is probably Brashard Smith finds a way. But in that case, it would be more of a committee with Kareem Hunt. But I'm not going to bet on Kareem Hunt. I'm not really going to bet on Elijah Mitchell in that offense. Just don't really trust Mitchell to stay healthy. Kareem Hunt's old, so probably kind of a risk to stay healthy too. But in general, the Chiefs' backfield is always valuable, so let's invest in it and hope for the best. Really wish I got Jaden Reed at pick 83 because we do have Lamar Jackson, and the Packers, the Green Bay Packers, are playing the Ravens in Week 17, and that's where all the money, all of the high-end cash is in this tournament. So it is important to kind of keep that in mind. But we're going to bet on the ceiling of TJ Hawkinson as well. If Hawkinson works out, Hawkinson could be the tight end 3. Hawkinson could be just as valuable as Trey McBride. And given he's a bit younger, maybe even more valuable than George Kittle. It's a hard argument to completely sell yourself on, but at least that opportunity is there. It's just a question of what will J.J. McCarthy be able to accomplish. But usually rookie quarterbacks tend to favor the tight end a little bit extra. You know what I mean? We have seen rookie QB tight end connections pay off in the past. So hopefully that is the case again. But if Hawkinson stays healthy, he's paid enough where it works out. And this does mitigate some risk because I was hoping to get Mark Andrews as well to pair up with Lamar, but never guarantee. Mark Andrews does go pick 99 to a team that obviously doesn't have him stacked up. We have Lamar, but definitely takes him above ADP. Kind of shocking. I have seen Mark Andrews fall to like 115 in the past. So he goes 99. I think that's more appropriate. Mark Andrews feels like he's going later than he should. But so far, the team is very balanced. We have Lamar Jackson, an elite quarterback. We have James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco. We also have Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, Chris Godwin, and Rome Odunze. And I think we just got sniped on Caleb Williams recently. Yeah, I think Caleb already off the board. Caleb went pick 89. Oh, wow. Very, very high on Caleb. That's okay. I would be comfortable with Keon Coleman or Michael Pittman, but I don't want to get sniped on both of these running backs. We're going to go Najee Harris, and I think Najee has more of a direct path to playing and touches. I think it's going to be somewhat of a committee with Omarion Hampton. I'm not convinced Hampton gets all the work there. So we're going to take Najee, but there's probably more upside with Zach Charbonnet. And then we need a fifth receiver. I'm comfortable with this price on Keon Coleman. I really am. Wide receiver 55 in ADP. We take him above Michael Pittman. And he did get hurt last year in his rookie season, but there was a stretch there where Keon Coleman was actually starting to come into his own. And I think in this best ball format, Keon Coleman is actually far more appealing to me personally in the Bills offense than Khalil Shakir is. If we're going to look at a rookie, we usually kind of ignore the first 4 games. Like the first month, I think is excusable. He had 51 yards followed by a bagel, then only 1 catch, but it was a 24-yard touchdown. So keep that in mind. 24-yard to the house is something he's capable of because in weeks 5 through 9, he had some pretty legit stats. An average of 58 yards per game on only 2.8 catches with 2 touchdowns. That's almost half per game. And that is an average of like 10.5 points roughly, if my math isn't too off. It's about 10.5. It's just over 10. But he had a 49-yard catch for a touchdown in week 5. So 50-yard touchdown. That's pretty nice in best ball. Then he had 4 for 125, an average of 30 yards per catch. And then the week after that, one of his best games of the season, I guess, yeah, truly his best game of the year, 7 targets, 5 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. The following week, that is where he started to get injured, got banged up. He finished the game, but then missed 4 weeks and wasn't quite the same after that, but he did have a 64-yard catch against Detroit. So the deep threat in that offense is Keon Coleman, and he was a rookie. You can kind of assume that maybe in year 2 he does take a leap forward. And while Khalil Shakir definitely offers a higher floor and is probably a safer bet in redraft, I'd be more comfortable starting him in my weekly lineup than Keon Coleman. I think in best ball for upside, I'd actually be a lot happier drafting Keon Coleman at pick 110 than I would drafting Khalil Shakir at 87 where he went. Remember, we passed on Shakir at 83, so he goes almost 3 rounds earlier than Keon Coleman. I would much rather just draft Coleman than Khalil Shakir. Shakir is a pretty capped ceiling type of player, so in best ball, I think this is the better pick. Our wide receiver 5. And another investment in Buffalo. We did pass on Josh Allen. No, we didn't pass. We got sniped on Josh Allen. I was hoping to get Josh Allen. But we have factored in some other Bills. We have James Cook as our RB1 and Keon Coleman. So the Bills are going to be good. You're never going to regret betting on them. The problem is, will the offense be divvied up too evenly for anyone to really emerge as an alpha any given week? But it'll be mixed around. I feel better about the Bills in best ball a lot more so than redraft. But tight end is coming off the board, and unless we wanted to reach on Loveland, we would have had to take Evan Ingram at 108. And I prefer how this went for us. Although TJ Hawkinson's kind of risky, he has a higher ceiling than anybody else. I think I'm probably going to further invest in Buffalo. However, the team after me has 5 receivers. I'm going to pass on Hollywood Brown. The team after us does take him, but I don't think Hollywood is like a critical pick where he's going. We need running back, though. Nah, we need a second quarterback. We're going to go Trevor Lawrence. We have Brian Thomas. Let's go Trevor Lawrence. Almost drafted a handcuff running back, but I think having a high upside quarterback to pair with Lamar Jackson, it means we're done at the position and we can feel pretty comfortable that we will be one of the best quarterback teams in this pod. Having the Brian Thomas stack is worth it. I also like the Liam Cohen addition there. I think that can really help the production from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we're starting to trust Baker a pretty decent amount. Liam Cohen took Baker to new heights, and he does have that Sean McVay influence. Lawrence should bounce back. At worst, he should pay off this ADP. So as our quarterback 2, I'm comfortable with it. But this is the team so far. We took Nico Collins, Brian Thomas at the top, and then our other receivers are Chris Godwin, Rome Odunze, and Keon Coleman. At quarterback, we're rolling with Lamar Jackson, currently unstacked. We also have Trevor Lawrence stacked up with Brian Thomas. Our running back core, a little bit thin, but does have some upside. We have James Cook, hoping for a repeat in terms of touchdowns. We also have Isaiah Pacheco and Najee Harris for kind of a floor ceiling combo. Najee's going to stay healthy. That's why I'm willing to take him there. And it's a run-first offense. He should be fine. Najee should finish around running back 30, and that's pretty much where he's going. I'd rather have Najee than Jordan Mason, Cam Scatteraboo, Tyron Tracy. I think I'd even rather have Najee than Jalen Warren. I don't see the ceiling of Najee Harris with players like Jalen Warren. The only higher ceiling is Zach Charbonnet in terms of handcuffs, and then maybe Javonte could put up better numbers, could have like a Rico Dowdle breakout, but I don't really trust Dallas at all. Javonte has been falling off. Najee stays healthy, so fewer red flags, but perhaps a capped ceiling. Nap God says T-Law gonna ball out this year. He should. I mean, Mac Jones was looking pretty good with Brian Thomas. And if Travis Hunter is even like half as good as what he's been hyped to be, it's a better wide receiver 2 combo than what they were rolling with last year. Last year, Christian Kirk was pretty irrelevant before getting hurt, and once he went down, it was just nobody beside Brian Thomas. I think I'm going to go Cedric Tillman. We only have 5 receivers, and the ceiling of Cedric Tillman is by far better than some of these other players. Tillman can be an absolute zero, but one reason why I've been talking myself into Tillman at this price, they didn't draft any target competition in Cleveland. I know they have terrible quarterback play in Cleveland, but there is no one to threaten Tillman for snaps. There's Judy, Tillman, and Njoku, and the only player they drafted who's going to catch anything would be Harold Fannin Jr. at tight end. So not worried about Tillman getting threatened for touches, and it's just a question of will the quarterback get him the ball. We're going to go Braylon Allen here because we need running back pretty desperately, and from everything I've kind of gathered from the Jets, I feel like they want to have more of a committee. The vibes are not good around Breece Hall. So we pass on Breece Hall in round 4. We took James Cook instead. And if that's going to be the right decision, then it's because Breece Hall's going to disappoint, and his backup is probably going to be more involved than people expect. So Braylon Allen is one of those guys I am comfortable taking. And at his price, I do see relatively fine investment there. I think you can accept the proposition you have to take with Braylon Allen. Like you're only drafting handcuffs at this point, and ones that are unlikely to be like on the field a ton. Like Algier has that job on lock, but is Bijan going down, giving him an 80% snap game? Probably not. Probably not more than twice. You know, even once feels kind of optimistic for Algier. And then Tank Bigsby, we have no fucking clue what that touch split is in Jacksonville. Bigsby's going the cheapest of the three, so I guess you can target him for that reason, but it's probably going to be Tootin's job above Bigsby. And then Eckler's old. Eckler got hurt, and Eckler wasn't scoring touchdowns last year. Even if he has the same role as last season, and Brian Robinson misses time, Eckler's not giving you more than like 11 points in a given game. Like maybe 3 touchdowns next season, but I don't really see much of a ceiling for Eckler, even if Brian Robinson is not the RB1. If Breece Hall isn't the same guy at all, then Braylon Allen probably gets some of his touches. And if Breece Hall goes down, then Braylon Allen probably sees like 17 plus touches per game, and 4 of them are probably receptions. So I'm fine with Braylon Allen here. I think otherwise Rico Dowdle's one of like the last handcuffs that you're like trustworthy with taking, and we need running back depth. I think we still need 2 more running backs on this team. We have 2 tight ends. I'm probably done with tight end. We have Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence. We passed on Brenton Strange, but I don't think we need another stack there with T-Law. We have 4 picks left. I think I'm going with a 2-6-8-2 build. We're drafting 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. I'm ignoring the other positions. We have an unstacked Lamar. It's fine. I'm willing to draft Alec Pierce, but he gets sniped. I'm also willing to draft Pat Bryant. But we do have Lamar, and Hopkins is in Baltimore. It's justified. I'll go with Hopkins. And then in the same vein, I'm going to go with Justice Hill in Baltimore. Not like exciting stacks to have, but definitely does correlate with our team. And maybe we get into the playoffs and Derrick Henry gets hurt. Maybe Zay Flowers misses some time. Maybe these players are actually a lot more involved than we would anticipate. But it's just the fact that we don't have any other Ravens with Lamar. I can't say these are like my favorite picks in this range. It just works with the team. But I think it's a solid roster. I really wish I had Josh Allen instead of Lamar. But last year, Lamar Jackson did put up more fantasy points than Josh Allen on the season. So we get last year's QB1 at the price of QB2. Not going to be complaining about that. My only regret is maybe not drafting a running back sooner. Like maybe we should have drafted Brian Robinson and Pacheco there at the turn instead of TJ Hawkinson. But it's not really that big of a deal. But lining up our next pick, I'm fine with Marshawn Lloyd at this price. Lloyd should be the handcuff to Jacobs, so there is potential it works out. If Sampson is there, I'll take Sampson. Not dying to take Dobbins. We already have Najee. And I don't see Dobbins going anywhere other than the Chargers. This Blake Corum Jarquez Hunter battle is really interesting. I really don't know what to say about it at this point in time. I think we need some camp reports to really hammer it down, but it does appear that Hunter is live to overtake Corum in this backfield, and if that's the case, there's a chance it's more of a committee, and Kyron Williams doesn't even have the value we hope he does. There's a chance this is not a workhorse job anymore, but someone I'm pretty interested in this point is a rookie named Torrey Horton, and I think I'm going to be drafting Torrey Horton on this team. I don't trust Cooper Kupp, and Jake Bobo is not someone I feel threatened with at all. I think Torrey Horton, drafted in round 5, is actually going to contribute a lot in that Seahawks offense. And then another backfield I think is completely up for grabs, other than the Chiefs one, is the Commanders one. And I've been looking into some Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt stats. I'm starting to be a believer he is worth a swing here. Let's go to College Football Reference. Merritt did not play very much, at least in terms of stats. He doesn't have a ton to showcase here, but last year he only played 1 game. He did get hurt, so not really emblematic. It was his first year actually playing in like a competitive conference. He played in Arizona, the Big 12. So let's just look at his entire game log in his career. There's only 13 games to look at, 12 with New Mexico and 1 with Arizona. But it is worth mentioning his only game with Arizona was a revenge game against New Mexico, against his former team, and he balled out, only on 13 carries, but 106 yards, that's 8.2 per touch, and a touchdown. He did pay off in that game. It was a 61-39 blowout, though, so how much do you trust it? I don't know, but it is interesting. He had a great season before that. His touchdown total was 17 in those 12 games for New Mexico, and then he also put up just under 1,200 yards in those 12 games as well. So average over 100. He had 2 games at the end of the year with over 200 here, and 17 touchdowns does speak for itself in 12 games. That is impressive. So played for New Mexico, not the flashiest spot, but we have seen players, enter the NFL from a college like this and perform in a good spot. So if the volume is up for grabs, I think Krosky-Merritt can benefit, and there are some exciting game logs here where he could actually be a lot more talented than his 7th round draft capital would indicate. So I'm willing to take a shot on him. I don't trust Brian Robinson or Eckler that much, and in round 18 we are swinging for the fence in the first place. So let's do it in Washington. And if he can be the workhorse on the goal line, I do think we have a potential shot at value. But here's the team. At quarterback, we have Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence. Pretty mediocre stacks. With Lamar, it's Justice Hill and DeAndre Hopkins, so probably not that exciting. Trevor Lawrence, we have him stacked up with Brian Thomas. We passed on Brenton Strange earlier in the draft. But at running back, a little shaky, but at the top, we do have James Cook. Just need him to stay healthy and keep scoring touchdowns. And then Pacheco, hoping for the best, but there is risk here. Najee, maybe a capped ceiling, but if Omarion Hampton misses time or just doesn't have the role we anticipate, then Najee should probably put up another 1,000 rushing yards and hopefully 10-plus touchdowns. He will stay healthy. That's why I took him, to guarantee we have some points every week rather than none. But Braylon Allen, a shot in the dark, hoping that Breece Hall doesn't pay off. Justice Hill for the stack, and then Krosky-Merritt, a true prayer, hoping for the best. But receivers, fine. We have Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, gives us the luxury to bet on a Chris Godwin bounce-back season. If Godwin is the same as he was before the ankle injury, he will smash his ADP. And then Roma Dunze, just to get a piece of Chicago. Keon Coleman, I think a good best ball pick at ADP. Cedric Tillman, hoping he stays healthy, but is the clear wide receiver 2 in Cleveland. And then DeAndre Hopkins for the stack, and then Torrey Horton for some upside if Cooper Kupp does not pay off. Maybe Torrey Horton could have that Tyler Lockett role down the field. And then tight end, we're taking a swing that TJ Hawkinson does pay off with JJ McCarthy. And then Dalton Kincaid maybe lives up to some of the hype we had for him last year. Not as big of a letdown as he was in his sophomore season. But the only team I wish this team had was Josh Allen instead of Lamar Jackson. But I think overall a decent team definitely can compete. Just need a bit of luck at running back. Anyways, I want to do one more. We're not doing a Best Ball Mania, though. We're hopping into a puppy. And if you want to join me, I'm on a roughly like 8-second delay. So I'm going to do 20-second timer. If you want to hit the button right now, I'll give it another 5 seconds. And hopefully if you want to draft with me, we can draft together. Let's hop in. And there are 2 spots left. If you want to join this puppy draft, welcome aboard. If not, you just want to watch, that's perfectly fine too. But as we're waiting, I'm going to get some coconut water. I'll be right back. Gotta get to the fridge right here. Always convenient to have a mini fridge in the back room. By the way, if you're new to the channel and you've enjoyed the video so far, please hit that subscribe button. And if you already subscribed, if you are subscribing right now as well, hit that like button for me too. Second draft of the stream, hit that like button. Really appreciate it. Helps the channel grow, helps me know you guys are enjoying the content. But subscribe and like, you know what to do. Also, if you never want to miss out on one of these drafts, if you want to be drafting with me in the first draft of the video, then ring the notification bell and you'll get some updates whenever we go live, whenever I have new content. I don't think it applies for the community posts, like the polls on like who I think will win the next game or whatever. I don't know if it does that, but maybe it does. I've never gotten one of those. I think it's just live streams and new content, but you'll at least know when I am going live in the future. But this will be the last stream of the day. The last draft, I guess I should say. I'm going to take Amon-Ra St. Brown. I've officially decided St. Brown I do have ranked above Malik Neighbors. I just don't trust that Malik Neighbors quarterback situation enough. Neighbors probably has a few more spike weeks, but probably has fewer touchdowns still in that Giants offense. I do not trust the Giants at all. They'll probably be in more catch-up mode, forcing them to throw the ball a little bit more, but the targets coming out of Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart are just not valued the same as targets from Jared Goff. I think with Ben Johnson gone, they're going to lean a bit more on St. Brown this year, as opposed to Jameson Williams. So more of a safety net with St. Brown. Same tier, though. I think Puka, St. Brown, Nico Collins, all in the same tier. And while we could take a falling value on Derrick Henry, we mentioned earlier that we are trusting this Ladd McConkey ADP in round 2. We're just going to take Ladd. The receivers in round 3 do not compare to Ladd. Used to think they did. After further examination, Ladd is worth it here. Let's show you in terms of raw numbers exactly what I mean, because I brought it up. I explained it earlier in the video. but I can also just show you, and hopefully the numbers speak for themselves. Because weeks 1 through 4, Herbert had the foot injury. Then week 5, they go on bye. And for 2 games, I'm willing to give a threshold of like, now is where they're really getting their footing and finding the health in Herbert. So let's get rid of the first 6 games and start with week 8 through week 18. And while technically you can say it's cherry pick, some of the worst games are in those first 6, you want to look at the full season. Herbert's health is very important, and this is not a small sample size for a rookie. We also usually give rookies the benefit of the doubt that they are also learning on the job, and those first 4, 5, 6 games, sometimes the first half of the season, just doesn't count. So let's look at the last 10 games for Ladd. He played on only 9 of them, and he averaged 88 yards per game with 5 touchdowns in those games. That right there is 11.8 points. 88 plus 3, half a touchdown. Then you add the receptions, 5.8 per game. That's almost 3 extra points. We're looking at 14 points per game from Ladd in the final 10 regular season games of the year. That is worthy of a top 12 receiver. So that's why Ladd is the correct pick. And I wish I didn't have this take. I wish I had this take sooner. I wish I knew how much I trusted Ladd earlier than this point. But now we know. Now we have the info. And my cat is like in front of the computer. Okay, we took Chase Brown. That's who I wanted. I wanted Chase Brown. We passed on Derrick Henry. And I think a tier drop below is Chase Brown, but not like a massive tier break. Not insane. And I would much rather have Chase Brown than Breece Hall or Kyren Williams. Chase Brown, one of the better picks of round 3, especially at running back. If you can get Bucky Irving to fall or Josh Jacobs, then go for it. But I think the next best guy is Chase Brown. Biggest red flag for Chase Brown is that he maybe can't stay healthy when he finally got the massive volume. Once Zach Moss was down, he was great with it. He definitely would pay off this ADP if healthy, but he did miss some of the last few weeks of the season. He did have an ankle sprain at the end of the year. So probably doesn't see the same volume, but there's no one really poised to threaten him. And he at least was a winner coming out of the draft and should benefit in terms of workload to start the year. I doubt his job is threatened for any other reason than injury. Lamar does fall. And although we took Lamar on the last team, it's not the same equation. It is much different. We're getting Lamar Jackson here at, what is it, pick 40? Pick 41. His ADP is 36. That's a discount I will happily take, especially considering the team that drafted Jaden Daniels took him in the early 3rd. I'd much rather have Lamar Jackson than Jaden Daniels. I feel safer and more of a known commodity with Lamar. Lamar runs it more. You also don't feel the urgency to stack with Lamar Jackson as much. Like, I think the best stacking option is Mark Andrews by far. But even if we don't get Zay Flowers here, there's really nothing that concerns you about it. Bateman doesn't have to be on your team. You can draft whoever you want when you have Lamar. It's not necessary, because the game where Lamar has the QB1 on the week is not the game where he's throwing, 3 touchdowns to Zay Flowers. Now, he might throw 3 touchdowns in that game, but it's going to be a game where he goes over 120 rushing yards and maybe 2 rushing touchdowns. That's the ultimate ceiling Lamar Jackson game, which is independent of anyone else's performance. So although it is repetitive, I am not ever going to regret Lamar Jackson at 41. If he falls 5 picks, you should take him. But we do have 2 receivers, so we don't have to go with another here. I would have taken Ridley if available. But we do get George Kittle to fall. And I don't really trust the price on Pickens right now. I think Pickens' price will fall back down a little bit. I'm going to take George Kittle, a very safe pick. Probably the most appropriately ranked tight end of them all. You can say that's a good thing. You can also say that it's a bad thing. But Kittle in round 5, I think, is where he should be going. And then maybe some of the tight ends going later should probably be drafted a bit higher. But the 2 tight ends being drafted in round 2, I think, are going a bit too steep. I wish they were going much closer to Kittle. I don't see a big gap between Kittle, Bowers, and McBride. And if you are trying to stack any of the San Francisco 49ers, I think the best player to have paired up with Purdy is George Kittle by far and away. Especially in the red zone, Purdy does not look for anyone as much as he looks for Kittle. And a lot of those touchdowns are also like 30 plus yards. So he may not necessarily be targeted right in the red zone, but a lot of his touches turn into touchdowns. And that accounts for a lot of the touchdowns on Brock Purdy's resume and why Purdy was able to get paid for $53 million just the other day. They also extended Kittle. They gave Kittle a big contract like last week. Currently, the highest paid tight end, averaging $19.1 million. He has a 4-year, $76 million contract. Pays him through 2030. I will take Chris Godwin. Feel like I don't need to repeat myself too much on Godwin. We took him last draft again, and we took him even higher. We took him at pick 59. Just to bet on his health. When we have St. Brown and Ladd already, it's kind of like when we had Nico and Brian Thomas. You feel really safe in those top 2 options that you're willing to take the gamble. Because even if Godwin misses like 4 or 5 games, once he's on the field, he's going to be fine. I know they brought in Egbuka. I'm not worried about Egbuka. I'm not worried about Jalen McMillan. And Mike Evans is another year older. But Godwin was just so effing good before he went down. Averaged 9 targets per game, 8.9 to be specific, 7 catches, 7.1, 82 yards per game, 5 touchdowns in 7 games played. That is more than 15 points per game. And we said that Ladd was worth it in round 2 for averaging about 14.5. So Godwin was outperforming Ladd, and yet he's going 4 rounds later. It's just the injury risk. That's the only thing you can point to. In the last draft, we learned that missing out on running back in this round, when we only have one ahead of that, was a risky proposition. So we're just going to take DeAndre Swift here. I probably should grab a receiver, but the receiver I wanted there was Jaden Reed. We could have taken Ayuk for the sake of a stack, but drafting Purdy in like the next 2 rounds when we already have Lamar is not like my favorite thing to do. So we'll take Swift. And the reason I wanted Jaden Reed is because this is the Week 17 NFL schedule. Right there, Week 17. And the Ravens are going to be at the Green Bay Packers. So if that game's a shootout, then maybe Jaden Reed needs to be correlated with our Lamar Jackson blow-up game. But it's not the end of the world. The Niners are playing Chicago. So our George Kittle, San Francisco Niners, and DeAndre Swift, Chicago Bears correlation does line up a little bit. But we see Brian Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco go off. So that would have been a bummer to miss out. And there's actually a chance we get Ayuk here, which would be awesome. But if not, we can take Mooney, and I'll live with Mooney. But this team already passed on Ayuk. Will they do it again? They take Igbuka. Oh, wow. This is dope. So we are probably going to target Brock Purdy in this case. We take Ayuk at pick 89. And normally I don't really like to take Godwin and Ayuk together. But if I'm just going off my rankings, I am probably going to be taking Godwin and Ayuk above ADP all the time. Like, wanted to kind of mix it up, but we have Kittle and we get Ayuk. So taking Swift was clearly the right pick. That worked out well. Problem is, I really don't want to be grabbing quarterback 2 at pick 104. Like, I'm not dying to do that when we need running back kind of badly. Purdy's ADP is 108. And there's a team with Juwan Jennings. There's the team with Christian McCaffrey. That team has Josh Allen, and the team with Juwan has Baker and Mahomes. So I'd actually be fine if the team with Baker and Mahomes took Purdy and like kind of messed up their team with 3 quarterbacks. But it's probably not a risk worth taking. However, I don't think it's necessary. At the end of the day, I just don't think having Lamar forces your hand where you have to take Purdy, even though we are double stacked with Ayuk and Kittle. I'm going to risk it that I can get Purdy coming back around. I'd rather have the Mark Andrews stack with Lamar than the Purdy stack. Because we can also go with Goff later to stack with Amon-Ra St. Brown. We can also grab Justin Herbert to stack with Ladd. I am not going to overspend on Brock Purdy. I will take Mark Andrews if I can. We can't. Bummer. That sucks. I mentioned I like Keon Coleman here, but we probably need a running back if we can't take Andrews. I'll take Scatabo. Past ADP, the only but the Giants backfield I don't feel safe investing in. It could be Scatabo, it could be Tyrone Tracy, it's probably both of them, and probably to the extent where the very few touchdowns this offense has to offer in the first place are cut in half. I don't think you're getting Scattaboo from ASU with the Giants. If the only game you watched from Scattaboo last season was against Texas in the national playoff, that playoff game against Texas where he fucking balled out, and that's what you're expecting in the NFL, you'll be disappointed. He's not going to be that good. He has the potential to be really good. I think straight up I would rather have him than Tyrone Tracy. That's why we do take him here. But as like a good bet in fantasy football, it does not feel that way. So Scatterboot, Jalen Warren, Charbonnet, Tracy, Najee. At least we get someone. This team was kind of thin, rolling with just Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, Cam Scatterboot. Like I said, we pass on Purdy. He does come back around. We also have Herbert there. We only have 4 receivers. I'm willing to take whoever comes back. I think we can gamble on it. We'll go Kyle Williams and take a swing that this rookie does emerge as Drake May's favorite target, because there is some value in New England, and I am not totally on board with Stephon Diggs being the guy. Not convinced he's who you want, but the team after us does not have a quarterback, and they have Trey Harris, so that might not be good. And then Purdy does go 115, so might not get either of the stacks. We get sniped on Jared Goff at 112 to the team with Laporta. And in case you hear that, you're not going crazy. My cat is meowing. But if Diggs is not healthy to start the year, it opens some opportunity for Kyle Williams in a way where I think he can really emerge. There's also a scenario where no Patriots receiver has any value once again. And that is the big risk of drafting someone here. Maybe I should have just taken Rashad Bateman, because we do have Lamar Jackson on this team. But wanted to gamble on QB. And this also does open up Drake May for this team as well. So not the end of the world, even if we get sniped. But if we get sniped on both, that'll be kind of disappointing. Herbert's gone. This team needs running back. I think we get sniped. We don't. All right. Drake May it is. And Drake May did have really good rushing stats last year, so pairs up with Kyle Williams. We can also go Hunter Henry later on. And if Kyle Williams does smash this ADP, then it does mean Drake May should play well. So I'm fine with it. We have 2 running quarterbacks, and that's rarely a bad strategy. Drake May is a valuable pick here. More rushing upside than almost everyone going above him until we get to like Caleb Williams. And Drake May probably has more rushing yards than Caleb. Could have more rushing yards than like Kyler Murray. Drake May last year, I know he was hyper efficient when running the ball, but I don't totally remember his rushing stats off the top of my head. Last year in 13 games, he had 421 rushing yards. That's 32 per game. I believe that is just as much as Kyler Murray, if not a little bit more. I'll look up Kyler as well. Last year, Kyler had 33.6. They were on par with each other. Kyler had just 1.5 rushing yard more per game than Drake May. I need running back. We'll go Garendo. There's some good tight ends in this range. I think all very appropriate to be drafting, but with George Kittle already, we can afford to wait, especially with Drake May. The stack I would be targeting is Hunter Henry. I'll be looking for Hunter Henry later on. And Henry's so much cheaper. Henry ADP 170. The players going off right now are Jake Ferguson, Isaiah Likely. We just saw Tucker Kraft and Goddard go off the board. I don't see a massive gap between Goddard and Hunter Henry. If anything, I can argue Hunter Henry is more valuable than Isaiah Likely and Kyle Pitts and Jake Ferguson. Hunter Henry was very safe last year. Angus loves Ray Davis. Ray Davis goes to 143. I would be happy with Ray Davis here. That's for sure. Only here to watch me draft Kyle Pitts. Well, I don't have a team to justify it. I can't justify it. We don't have Mooney. We don't have Penix. We don't have Bijan. There needs to be a confluence of events. There needs to be a perfect storm for me to take Kyle Pitts. I need to be invested early enough in the draft where I'm already taking Falcons. And I need a backup quarterback where I can target Michael Penix and then justify, well, we already have this bet on the Falcons. And Kyle Pitts has never been this cheap. We need a few special recipes to happen all at once in order to justify Kyle Pitts. But I have taken Kyle Pitts on the stream before. And this could be the year where we should be drafting Kyle Pitts at like a massive... He goes 147. He goes 147. Someone saved us from ourselves. I do believe in the trend that Kyle Pitts will be scoring one more touchdown than last year. That's exactly what's happened in his career. Year 1, he had over 1,000 yards, only 1 touchdown. Year 2, had a terrible season, had like 500 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did miss some time, and then year 3, he had like 700 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then he's been at like 600 yards the last 2 seasons with 4 touchdowns last year. I think it should jump up to 5 this year. I'm probably going to take Tank Bigsby here. Because receiver doesn't matter. Receiver at this range, there's no way I'm taking Jalen McMillan. And running back, while there may be some less risky picks than Tank Bigsby, I don't think there's anyone with a higher ceiling than Bigsby. Bigsby can actually win the job. Angus says, consider Bigsby isn't actually all that good. I'm not really convinced any of their running backs are good. What I am convinced is that they are pretty motivated to move off of Travis Etienne. And for that reason, Bigsby was just as valuable, if not more valuable than Etienne last season. And I think at the very least, Bigsby has a better reason to be drafted at ADP than Etienne does, who is going higher. That's why I think Bachel Tutin probably is the one you want. But I think the most like appropriately ranked guy is Bigsby. And I'm kind of screwed at running back regardless if I'm considering a Jaguars running back. But look who I have. I have Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, Cam Scattaboo, Isaac Garendo, and Tank Bigsby. I'm shooting for the moon with my handcuffs. And I consider Scattaboo one of the handcuffs. So I'm not really looking at the floor. I'm fully invested in ceiling at this point. The teams after me all have 2 tight ends. So with Freiermuth still on the board, I don't think I'm going to be drafting Hunter Henry here. I'm going to take a gamble that Hunter Henry wraps back around. Unless this team right here does take Freiermuth, and then it's a different equation. The team with Laporta goes Jalen Noel. So I'm not going to take tight end here. We already have 5 running backs. We'll go Cedric Tillman. Boy, I'm really risking it with these later round picks. You get so screwed if you deviate off receiver early on. Like, we had this 3-round stretch here with Chase Brown, Lamar Jackson, George Kittle without a receiver. And then we also passed on Cooper Kupp. I got bailed out with Brandon Ayuk there. But, like, Kyle Williams is the 5th. Cedric Tillman as the 6th receiver. That feels really gross. At least we have St. Brown and Ladd, very safe floor plays, but yikes. This is a risky team. This team is either going to be very good or absolute trash. This team may have no depth at all. It's pretty top heavy. And that's not a terrible thing. Like, the most top heavy teams, are going to win the championship, so to speak. They're going to perform well in the tournament, but like, you need that top to go like 6 players deep. I think we have 5. We got Lamar, Chase Brown, Amon-Ra Ladd, and George Kittle. Everyone else on this roster is a massive gamble. And we see Mike Gesicki go at the turn. Now Pat Freiermuth off. Like I mentioned, every team on this side of the board already has 2 tight ends. So the team with Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts was one of the last ones to draft that position. I think I'm going to sneak by with Hunter Henry at 176. But no, I do not. He goes 173. So too much of a gamble there. And the difference between Hunter Henry and Mason Taylor is significant. So maybe that's not good. Probably not good. But perhaps this is just more of a reason to punt that position. We go Demario Douglas, another Patriot receiver. Demario's not like elite, but one problem I have with this team is that like I was saying, there's so many wide swings on outcomes. I kind of just want a player that can give me a safe floor every week. Like, Demario rarely scores a touchdown, but he does usually give you like 50 yards. And that is usually on like 5 catches. So if we can just bank a 7-pointer every week, I think that could save me a few times. And we have Drake May, so the stack is justified. But like, players like Cedric Tillman can give you like 2 points or 13. Kyle Williams could be a 0. Ayuk could get hurt again. Same with Godwin. Like, there may be some rough bumps in the road where Demario does kind of flatten everything. You're very rarely going over 10 points with Demario, but you're also rarely going under 6. And so a random flex addition, on weeks he scores touchdowns will be helpful. With Demario, if he scores a touchdown, you're rarely getting like only 15 yards and 1 catch on a touchdown. Like, Demario will do it on like 6 catches, and one of them is like a 13-yard reception. All right, I got 3 picks left. We got 2571. I'm not going to draft Hopkins this time. I'm just going to go with Yoshivis. I think Yoshivis is a much better pick than Hopkins. We saw his potential with T. Higgins going down. Clearly the number 3 receiver in that offense. So more of a path for touchdown production than pretty much anyone else here. Like, I would be interested in betting on Pat Bryant maybe a couple months from now when we have training camp reports indicating he's above Devon Vele, but I can't feel confident that he's not behind Devon Vele. Devon Vele going undrafted. I don't see a big change in value there. And then we took Hopkins last time just for the stack purposes. It wasn't worth it. Hopkins is pretty gross. But 2 more picks. We 100% need a tight end. And then running back is shaky enough where we probably need another one. I'm interested in Woody Marks in this range. I think he would be better than Dameon Pierce. There's also a world where Kareem Hunt does really smash again. We took Pacheco last time. It's a different team, so much different investment. But what if one of the arguments on this team is that the Niners handcuff is actually the path for success, and maybe we get McCaffrey missing like 12 plus games, and there's a combination of Garendo and Jordan James, because Garendo did get hurt kind of quickly once he got like the bulk of touches. Garendo did not stay healthy when he was the starter, so I do want to be mixing in Jordan James a few times. I'll take Jordan James. And then at tight end, I almost took Okonkwo there. Chig has decent value, but I kind of don't care who I get. And it looks like all these other teams mostly have another tight end already. So Okonkwo gets sniped. I don't care too much. Elijah Arroyo is kind of interesting. I think he could really overtake Noah Fant in Seattle. Perhaps Juwan Johnson is a relevant target in New Orleans, but never feel excited to draft him. There's a world where Noah Gray emerges more, especially in the touchdown department. He had 5 touchdowns last year, so not too many players at this point who have more. But then there's also guys like Tyler Conklin, who should emerge as the tight end 1 in LA for the Chargers. If you really wanted to, you could go Taysom Hill. You've seen me take a lot of Ben Sennett, which I think is kind of interesting. And then I've also gone with Terrence Ferguson a lot. We'll go Tyler Conklin. Didn't realize I was on the clock. We go with Conklin. All right, so that's the team. We have Lamar Jackson, Drake May at quarterback. At running back, we're rolling with Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, Cam Skattebo, Isaac Garendo, Tank Bigsby, and Jordan James. A lot of risk here. I think what could save it is if McCaffrey goes down. Otherwise, running back is going to be very reliant on DeAndre Swift and Chase Brown staying healthy, and that is not a safe proposition. So running back is very shaky on this roster, but could work out. Wide receiver, kind of top-heavy with St. Brown, Ladd. That's safe. And then if Godwin and Ayuk do pay off, they could smash ADP. So a lot of upside, a lot of risk. Kyle Williams, Cedric Tillman, Demario Douglas, Andre Yoshivas. Hopefully piece it together at the right time. And then tight end, we have Kittle and Tyler Conklin. Kittle should be top 3 all year, where we don't need much contribution from Conklin. And even if he does play well, there's not going to be that many weeks where we do actually get him in our lineup. So trusting Kittle Not a bad way to go. But that's going to be it for this live stream. If you enjoyed, remember, hit that subscribe button, and you can ring the notification bell if you want to be participating in any of these future drafts. You won't miss out on any new content, or when I go live, you'll get a notification on your phone. And then if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. As always, helps out the channel. But that's going to be it for today. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys on Wednesday with another draft and probably some content posted throughout the week. I think it's time for a rankings video pretty soon. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Goodbye.